I found it in the back of a Tokyo thrift store in 2003, buried under stacks of porn and old samurai films. The case was unmarked, except for a single kanji scratched into the plastic. Shen Kami. Inside, the label read, Dragon Ball, Episode 83-5. Kami's Nightmare, I laughed. A bootleg, maybe some hentai edit. But the tape was heavy, too heavy, and cold like it had been in a freezer. My VCR ate it with a wet crunch. Static. Then, the Dragon Ball opening played, but wrong. No music. Just Goku running in slow motion, his smile stretched too wide. At 0:10, the screen glitched. Cut to Kami's. Lookout. Empty. The sky wasn't blue, it was black with no stars. A child's voice whispered through the speakers, "You shouldn't be here." The camera panned down. Goku stood there. Not Kid Goku, not adult Goku. Somewhere in between, with limbs too long for his body. His eyes were black pits. Behind him, the dragon. Balls were arranged in a circle, but the 4-star ball was cracked, oozing thick, dark liquid. "Where's Shenlong?" he asked. His mouth didn't move. The screen cut to the eternal dragon, but his scales were peeling, revealing muscle underneath. He wasn't coiled around the lookout. He was buried in it, his body fused with the tiles, his face half sunk into the floor. His one visible eye rolled toward the camera. "I can't sleep!" Shenlong boomed, his voice layered with screams. Goku tilted his head. "Then wake up!" The screen exploded into noise. For 3 seconds, I saw something else. A room with white walls, stretching forever. A figure in a chair. A TV playing static. Then, recording error flashed in blood-red kanji. The tape ejected itself. My apartment smelled like burnt hair, and on the TV, reflected in the black screen, a shadow behind me, its fingers pressed against my shoulders. The shadow was gone when I turned around. But the tape had changed. I realized it the next morning when I noticed the VHS sitting upright on my desk, even though I'd left it inside the VCR. The plastic casing felt warmer now, almost body temperature, and when I shook it gently, I could hear something sloshing inside, like liquid had pooled between the reels. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I plugged in a second VCR I kept for digitizing old family videos, a cheap backup unit from the 90s. If this thing was going to destroy a machine, let it be the disposable one. The moment the tape engaged, my backup VCR made a sound like grinding teeth. The screen stayed black for a full minute before flickering to life with a distorted Toei animation logo. Except the usual castle had been replaced with a writhing mass of black tendrils. Then, new footage began playing. Scene 1. The Forest of. Scream Skid Goku ran through a forest, but the colors were inverted. Black trees against a blood-red sky. His mouth moved silently until suddenly, the audio crackled to life. "They told me not to look behind the studio," his voice whispered, though his lips didn't sync with the words. But I did, and it saw me too. The camera panned to reveal a clearing, where Yamcha lay on the ground, except his torso had been hollowed out, his ribcage stretched open like a grotesque satellite dish. His eyes were missing, replaced with 2 tiny Dragon Balls that rolled wildly in their sockets. A shadow moved at the edge of the frame. Scene 2. The Making of Nightmare. Suddenly, the episode cut to what looked like 1986 studio footage. Grainy, handheld camera shots of animators at their desks. But something was wrong. The animators weren't drawing. They were tracing, their pencils moving frantically over already completed cells that showed Bulma's face melting into a puddle of ink, Master Roshi's eyes being plucked out by an invisible hand, a version of Shenlong with human teeth. One animator turned to the camera. His eyes were just black voids and whispered, "The dream is real. Kami is not our friend." Scene 3. The Brazilian copy. The tape glitched violently before cutting to what looked like a Brazilian bedroom in the 90s. A CRT TV playing the same episode, but with different scenes. Piccolo strapped to a stone altar, his skin being peeled upward. Like a banana, a child's voice chanting "Dragon, Dragon, Rock the Dragon," backward a phone number flashing on screen. 011-813-XXXXXXX, a Tokyo area code. Then, text in Portuguese. He will hear you if you watch at night. The footage cut back to my apartment. My actual apartment. There I was, asleep at my desk, except on screen, a shadowy figure stood behind my sleeping body, its hands buried in my hair. The timestamp in the corner read, today's date, 3:33 a.m. The tape ejected itself. My backup VCR began smoking, and from my bathroom, the sound of running water. The bathroom faucet was running blood, not metaphorical horror movie blood, thick, dark liquid that smelled like copper and burnt plastic. It swirled down the drain in perfect spirals, each rotation pulling strands of something fibrous with it. When I reached to turn it off, the reflection in the mirror didn't move with me. It was him. Goku, but not Goku. His pupils were vertical, slits now, his irises the same inky black as the 4-star Dragon Ball's ooze. He pressed a finger to the glass and tapped, once, twice, matching the rhythm of the dripping faucet. Then he mouthed 2 words, "Call now." The bathroom light exploded. The Brazilian tape's phone number burned in my mind. I dialed on my landline, because somehow I knew my cell would record this. It rang, and then, click. Silence, then breathing, not human breathing. Something wet, like lungs filled with liquid. A voice whispered in Japanese, "You watched the dream." I froze. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. The same childlike whisper from the tape's Kami. How do I stop it? I asked. The line crackled. For a second, I heard screaming in the background, high-pitched like a child. Then, "You don't. It stops you." A new sound, scratching, like something dragging itself closer to the receiver. The voice dropped to a guttural growl. "The 4th ball is his eye. He sees you. He's always..." The call cut off. My landline's cord snapped, whipping back into the wall like a severed artery. I needed proof I wasn't insane. Googling the phone number led me to a 2002 forum thread titled, "Dragon Ball Lost Episode, Real." The posts were a graveyard of dead links and paranoid ramblings, but one comment stood out. A user named Shenlong's Secret, claiming they'd found the same tape in Kyoto. Their last post. It showed me Piccolo's death, not in the show. Real, footage, a basement, ropes. His skin was... The post cut off mid-sentence. I dug deeper. Shenlong's Secret's profile led me to a news article from 2003. Missing otaku found in Tokyo apartment. No skin. The victim's name was Ryo Takahashi, a freelance animator who had worked on Dragon Ball Z. The article included a crime scene photo, blurred, but visible enough to see one detail. On Ryo's desk, amid pools of blood, sat a single Dragon Ball toy, the 4-star one. That night, I tried watching a normal Dragon Ball episode to cleanse my mind. Big mistake. During the Fortune Teller Baba arc, the screen glitched. For 3 frames, Goku's face was replaced with the tape version. Black eyes, stretched smile. Then, subtitles appeared that weren't in the original. You think this is fiction? Look behind you. I didn't want to. But my laptop's camera, light turned on by itself. In the preview window, a figure standing in my doorway. Tall, thin, wearing Goku's gi, but stitched from human skin. The screen went black. When it came back, my entire Dragon Ball folder had been replaced with a single video file, episode 83.5, Final Cut MP4. I didn't click it. It clicked itself. The video played before I could stop it. Grainy footage filled my screen. Not animation this time, but a dimly lit studio from the 1980s. A man in a stained white lab coat stood hunched over a light table, his trembling hands adjusting a Dragon Ball cell. Except, it wasn't the 4-star ball. It was a human eyeball, perfectly preserved under the ink, its pupil dilated in terror. The man's face wasn't visible, but his voice hissed through my speakers in jagged Japanese. We promised it children's dreams, but it wanted their throats instead. The camera panned to show a shelf lined with glass jars, each containing a tiny wrinkled Dragon Ball floating in murky fluid. Then, static. When the image returned, the man was gone. Only the cell remained, now smeared with fresh blood, the eyeball inside rolling to stare directly at me. My doorbell rang. I muted the video. The doorbell rang again. 3 sharp bursts, too mechanical to be human. Through the peephole, I saw Ryo Takahashi's face, or something wearing it. His skin was stretched too tight over his skull, his lips sewn shut with what looked like fishing wire. His eyes were intact though, horrifyingly intact. And when he blinked, I saw it, the faint glow of 4 stars reflected in his corneas. Didn't open the door, but the locks clicked open anyway. Ryo's mouth tore free of its stitches with a wet snap. He didn't speak. The voice came from my laptop instead, a chorus of children whispering, "You should have answered the phone." Behind him, the hallway stretched into impossible darkness, the walls pulsing like veins. Ryo stepped forward, his limbs moving in jerky stop motion, and dropped a VHS tape at my feet. The label read, "Toei Animation, staff only, do not duplicate." Blood seeped through the cassette's seams. The screen behind me flickered back to life. The studio footage had changed. Now it showed a child's bedroom, the walls plastered, with Dragon Ball posters. A small boy sat cross-legged in front of a CRT TV, his back to the camera. The screen reflected his face, or lack thereof. Where his features should have been, there was only smooth skin, unbroken except for 2 nostrils and a lipless mouth that whispered, "He's in the Dragon Balls. He's always been there." Then the boy turned, his chest split open like a peach, ribs parting to reveal a hollow cavity where dozens of miniature Dragon Balls rattled like teeth in a skull. Ryo's hand clamped onto my wrist. His skin was freezing. Not the chill of death, the unnatural cold of something that had never been alive. He leaned in, his breath smelling of burnt film, and pressed his forehead against mine. Images flooded my mind. A dark room beneath Toei's studio where animators traced cells over real human skin. Akira Toriyama in 1985. Burning notebooks filled with designs that moved on their own, Shenlong's true form. Not a dragon, but a tangled mass of child-sized hands reaching up from a pit eye, wrenched free just as my laptop speakers erupted with screaming. The video had reached its finale. A first-person shot of someone crawling through a ventilation shaft, their breath ragged. The camera looked back just in time to see Goku, or the thing pretending to be him, crawling after them. His movements, all wrong, his jaw unhinging like a snake's. The screen cut to black. 2 words appeared in dripping red text. Game over. Ryo was gone. The VHS tape remained, and on my window, written in condensation, was a single phrase that hadn't been there before. The 5th star wakes tonight. Outside, the streetlights began to flicker, one by one, coming closer. The streetlights died in a wave of darkness, each one popping like a dying bulb as the shadow moved down the block. I grabbed the blood-stained VHS tape. Its plastic casing pulsed like a heartbeat under my fingers and ran to the bathroom, the only room without windows. The mirror showed my reflection panting, wild-eyed, until it didn't. My doppelganger suddenly stood perfectly still, its face smoothing into blank plastic as its eyes darkened into those same black pits from the tape. It mouthed words that came from the dripping faucet instead of its lips. They used real blood in the ink. The tape in my hands grew hotter. I threw it into the bathtub just as the glass shattered behind me. Not breaking inward, but melting, the shards stretching like taffy toward the VHS. The cassette split open, disgorging a tangle of magnetic tape that squirmed like a nest of worms. The strips spelled out words on the porcelain. Akira lied. The dragon was here first. Then my phone lit up with a notification. A Twitter post from an account named ORDBZ True1986, showing a photo of a Dragon Ball arcade cabinet in Osaka's red light district. The screen displayed a pixelated Goku holding his stomach, guts spilling, between his fingers. The caption: "Found the lost episode playable in the wild. Player 2 controls the wounds." The image glitched. Now it showed my apartment building, my bathroom. Me. A new DM popped up from the same account, a voice memo. I played it. What came out wasn't human speech, but the sound of a VCR rewinding, layered with wet chewing noises. Beneath that, a child, whispering, "The 5th star is in your ceiling." I looked up. The plaster bulged downward in 5 distinct points, like something was pressing 4 fingers and a thumb against the other side. The voice memo kept playing, the chewing sounds growing, louder until it resolved into words. "Hungry, so hungry. Goku didn't feed us enough." Then the ceiling split open. Not a collapse, a precision incision, the drywall peeling back in perfect flaps to reveal the attic's darkness. A single object dropped into the bathtub with a wet thud. A human heart, swollen and purple, with a 5 stars. Dragon Ball embedded in the left ventricle. The organ pulsed once, twice, then dissolved into black sludge that crawled up the tub's sides in branching patterns. The sludge spelled a name, Ozaru. My reflection in the shattered mirror finally moved. Again, but it wasn't me anymore. It was the thing from the tape, its elongated fingers pressing against the glass from inside as its mouth stretched into a grin full of vertically stacked teeth. The bathroom light died. In the dark, the voice from my phone whispered one last thing before the app deleted itself. "Round 2 starts when you wake up." I don't remember passing out. I don't remember dreaming. But when I came to, my hands were stained with ink, and on my living room wall, scratched into the plaster like it had been done with claws, was a perfect recreation of the Dragon Ball. Manga's first page, except in this version, Goku was eating Bulma, and in the corner, where the chapter title should have been, someone had written in what smelled like copper, "Welcome to the true origin story." I woke up choking on the taste of ink and rust. My fingers left black smears across my sheets. Not ink, something thicker, darker. The kind of liquid that moves against gravity, beading upward along my forearm like reverse rain. My bedroom mirror showed the truth. I wasn't bleeding. I was leaking animation cells. Patches of my skin had flattened into 2-dimensional frames, my veins replaced with thick black contour lines. The scratching started before I could panic. From inside the walls, not rats, fingernails, and then a voice. Not from the walls, from my own throat, but not my words. "The 6th star is in the basement." My legs moved without permission. Down the hall, past the kitchen where the fridge door hung open, revealing shelves lined with glass jars, each holding a single Dragon Ball, floating in murky fluid. I hadn't put them there, but I remembered them. The same jars from the studio footage. The basement door was already ajar. Cold air breathed up the stairs, carrying the stench of burnt hair and spoiled milk. The steps creaked underfoot, except the creaks came a second after my weight landed, like the house was lagging. Halfway down, the light bulb flickered, and in the strobe effect, I saw them. Handprints. Dozens of them, covering the walls, all too small to be adult. Some were human, others weren't. 3 fingers, claws. One print had 6 knuckles. The basement was worse. A single hanging bulb illuminated a concrete floor stained with something black and iridescent. In the center sat a child's desk, the kind used in Japanese elementary schools. On it, an inkwell filled with congealing blood, a brush made of human hair, and an open notebook. The page showed a half-finished Dragon Ball manga panel. Goku, but wrong. his mouth stretched ear to ear, his tongue forked like a serpent's. He held a Dragon Ball in each hand, except they weren't balls, they were eyes, and they were crying. Beneath the desk, a shoebox. Inside, a VHS tape labeled Toei Animation, Incident, 1986, Do Not Watch. The moment I touched it, the basement door slammed shut upstairs. The bulb blew out. Darkness. Then, the notebook pages began turning on their own. Each page was another horror. Page 1. A sketch of Shenlong wrapped around a schoolhouse, children dangling from his claws like ornaments. Page 2. A self-portrait of Akira Toriyama screaming as ink poured from his nostrils. Page 3. A crude map of Tokyo with 7 locations marked, 6 crossed out. The last was my address. The final page was blank except for a single sentence in shaky kanji. The dragon needs 7 voices to sing himself awake. The VHS tape in my hands grew warm, then hot, then burning. I dropped it just as the cassette cracked, open, not spilling tape, but teeth. Human molars, each one engraved with a tiny star. From upstairs, the sound of my front door opening. Footsteps. A child's voice called down, sweet and high. Oni-chan, I found your missing star. The basement light flickered back on. The shoebox was gone. In its place, a small mummified hand, its index finger extended, pointing behind me. I turned. The concrete wall was now a film screen, playing footage I'd never filmed me, sleeping last night, and standing over my bed, a figure in a Goku costume, its GI stitched together from patches of human skin. It leaned down, pressing its face against my sleeping forehead. The screen went black. Words appeared. The 6th star remembers. Then the basement door upstairs unlocked itself. The voice calling me Oni-chan wasn't coming from upstairs. It was coming from inside my throat. I gagged, clawing at my neck as the words forced their way up. A child's voice using my vocal cords, my jaw unhinged wider than possible, tendons snapping like rubber bands as something writhed behind my teeth. I coughed violently, and a small black Dragon Ball hit the basement floor with a wet thud. The 7th star. It wasn't a sphere. It was an eyeball, veined and pulsing, its iris a perfect 7-star cluster. It rolled toward the mummified hand, which twitched to life, fingers closing around it like a spider cradling an egg. The walls breathed, the concrete softened, warping into something organic, the inside of a throat. Ribbed flesh pulsed around, me as the basement elongated into a tunnel. At the far end, a faint light, a TV screen, playing static. The child's voice giggled, now coming from the eyeball in the hand. You swallowed it when you were 6. Don't you remember? The cartoon that licked back. A memory tore through my skull. 1994. Me, a kid, watching Dragon Ball late at night. The screen glitching. Goku's face pressing through the glass, his tongue, too long, too wet, brushing my lips before I screamed. The taste of copper. My mother finding me with a nosebleed, dismissing it as childhood imagination. But it hadn't been. He'd left something inside me. The mummified hand scurried up my leg, pressing the 7th star eyeball against my stomach. My skin peeled open, without pain, the flesh parting like a stage curtain to reveal a second set of teeth. Inside my abdomen, grinding, waiting. The voice from the eyeball whispered, "Shh, the dragon needs 7 voices. You're just the last note." The TV screen at the end of the tunnel changed. Footage of a recording studio, 1986. The original Goku voice actor, Masako Nozawa, slumped in her chair, her mouth sewn shut with animation cell tape. Behind her, a shadow. Not a man, not a dragon, leaned over her shoulder, its hands guiding hers as she signed a contract in blood. The screen cut to a classroom. children chanting the Dragon Ball opening theme. Except their eyes were missing, their sockets filled with tiny, writhing Dragon Balls. One child turned to the camera. It was me, age 6, holding a crayon drawing of Shenlong, except the dragon had my face. The basement walls convulsed. The mummified hand shoved the 7th star eyeball into my stomach mouth, screamed, but the sound wasn't mine. It was Masako Nozawa's voice, Goku's voice. Every Dragon Ball voice actor, past and present, layered into one shrieking chorus. The TV screen exploded. The static wasn't static anymore. It was wings. Great, leathery wings unfolding from the void, their span cracking the foundation of the house. And from the darkness between them, a single giggling whisper, "Dragon, dragon, rock the dragon. Time to wake up." My skin peeled back in perfect animation cells, each layer revealing another frame beneath. Muscles drawn in thick ink, bones sketched in rough pencil strokes. I tried to scream again, but my voice wasn't mine anymore. It was every Goku who ever existed, every scream from every episode, all playing at once from my throat. The basement was gone. Now, I stood in an endless white void, the same one from the lost episode, but I wasn't alone. He sat at a rusted animation desk, his back to me, hunched over a glowing cell. His fingers moved in quick, jerky motions, drawing reality itself. I tried to speak. My jaw moved on its own. "You're not Shenlong," my voice said, but the words were dubbed out of sync with my lips. The figure stopped drawing, turned. He had no face, just a smooth, blank surface where features should be, like an unfinished character design. But when he spoke, the voice was familiarly cheerful. Goku's voice, but warped, stretched thin over decades. "Nope, I'm the guy who drew him." He held up the cell he'd been working on. It was me. My face frozen mid-scream, my body half transformed into ink. "Funny story," not Goku said, tapping the cell with a pencil that dripped black liquid. "Back in '84, we needed something special to make Dragon Ball stand out, so we dug deep. Real deep. Found this cool old legend about a dragon that could make anything real, if you fed it enough imagination." He gestured to the void. Shapes flickered into existence. A pit filled with hundreds of sketchbooks, each one moving on its own. "Kids' drawings," he said. "They're nightmares, they're hopes, best fuel there is." But then, he leaned forward, his blank face rippling. The dragon got hungry for the real thing. The void shuddered. Reels of film unspooled from the darkness, showing Akira Toriyama in a hospital, his hands bandaged, whispering, "It's in the ink now." The original Dragon Ball staff meeting, where they voted to lock away episode 83.5A Child's Birthday Party. The cake decorated with Dragon Balls that blinked, not Goku, snapped his fingers. The film burned away, revealing 7 doors floating in the void. 6 were sealed shut, their surfaces covered in childish handwriting. Names of the missing voice. Actors. The 7th door was mine, and it was wide open. "See, the dragon needs 7 voices to sing him awake," not Goku said. 6 are already recorded. You're the finale. He reached into his own chest, his skin parted like paper, and pulled out a rusted film canister. Inside, a single blood-stained Dragon Ball cell. "Last seen," he whispered. "Let's make it legendary." He pressed the cell against my chest. My heartbeat became a film projector's whir. My vision spliced, and suddenly I was somewhere else. A classroom. 86. 20 children sat at desks, drawing. Their assignment: what does Shenlong look like to you? One boy's paper moved, his dragon blinked, and then the screaming started. The classroom dissolved like wet paper, the children's screams melting into the hiss of a film reel. I was back in the void, but now my body wasn't mine anymore. I looked down and saw cartoon lines where my skin should be. my veins replaced with thick black strokes that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. My hands were flat, two-dimensional, flickering between frames like an unfinished animation. Not Goku grinned, his face finely rendered, but all wrong. His eyes were still blank voids, his smile a jagged scribble that dripped ink down his chin. "Looking good, protagonist," he said, his voice a garbled mix of Goku's cheerfulness and something older. "Just need the finishing touches," he snapped, his fingers. The 7 doors reappeared, now arranged in a circle around us. The first 6 opened at once, and from them spilled a flood of VHS tapes, each labeled with a missing voice actor's name. Reels of film that slithered like snakes, their frames showing glimpses of the actor's final moments, a chorus of whispers, layered into a single, distorted phrase. "He's in the ink now." Not Goku plucked one of the film strips from the air and held it up to the light. The frames showed Masako Nozawa in a recording booth, her mouth stitched shut with animation cell tape, her eyes wide as she screamed into a microphone, a scream that never made it into the show. "6 voices," Not Goku said, tapping the film strip. It melted, reforming into a tiny, writhing Dragon Ball in his palm. 6 perfect performances, but you... He pointed at me. "You're the star of this episode." The 7th door swung wider, revealing a blinding white light. And then, the pain started. My bones splintered into keyframes, my flesh stretching and warping as the ink inside me rewrote my design. My screams came out in mono audio, my vision cutting to black between frames like a dying film reel. Not Goku clapped his hands. "Action!" The void collapsed, replaced by a TV screen. I was inside it, trapped in an episode of Dragon Ball that didn't exist. The animation was crude, unfinished, the backgrounds flickering between hand-drawn cells and real-world footage of my own apartment. Goku stood across from me, but his face was mine, his body a grotesque fusion of cartoon and reality. "Round 2, he said, in my voice. The screen flickered, text appeared, "Finish him." Goku lunged. I tried to fight back, but my body wasn't mine to control anymore. Every punch, every kick was pre-drawn. My movements locked into an animation loop I couldn't escape. Then, the screen cracked. A single jagged line split the TV in half, and through it, a hand reached out. Real, flesh, human. It grabbed my wrist and pulled. The hand that pulled me through the screen was skeletal, fingers stained permanent blue from decades of ink. Akira Toriyama's face greeted me, or what remained of it. His right eye was gone, the socket hollowed out into a perfect 4-star Dragon Ball cavity, weeping thick animation fluid down his cheek. His remaining eye locked onto mine, and in it, I saw every erased panel, every banned sketch, every lost episode. "They told me to stop drawing him," Toriyama rasped, his voice a damaged VHS recording. But the dragon was already in the ink. Behind him stretched the true hyperbolic time chamber. An endless warehouse stacked with burning sketchbooks, their pages filled with moving, screaming characters. The air smelled of melting celluloid and something older, burnt offerings. A massive animation desk dominated the center of the room. On it lay the original Dragon Ball manga draft. But this version didn't end with Goku flying off with Shenlong. The last panel showed a child being fed to an inky mass with 7 glowing eyes. Toriyama shoved a blood-stained eraser into my hand. "Final choice," he wheezed. "Erase yourself from the story, or become the new artist." The walls of the chamber peeled back, revealing Shenlong's true form. Not a dragon, but a gigantic thrashing no mask made from compressed animation cells. Its surface a collage of every character ever drawn. The eyes were real, plucked from voice actors. The teeth were sharpened pencils. From its maw poured the lost children. Dozens of them, their bodies fused with Dragon Ball merchandise, their mouths moving in perfect sync with Goku's battle cries. The first child reached for me, his plasticine, fingers unspooling into film strips that whispered, "Dragon, dragon, rock the dragon." Toriyama collapsed at the desk, his remaining eye rolling back to reveal a 7-star pattern. "He's hungry," he gasped. "Always hungry. The show must go on, or he'll eat reality." The eraser in my hand melted into ink, slithering up my arm, in branching tattoos that burned with 30 years of suppressed memories. 1984. Toriyama waking to find his drafts moving on their own. 86. The first child actor disappearing during a recording session, his final scream edited into episode 831995. The Toei basement, where they mixed real blood into the animation paint now. Me, standing at the center of it all, with two terrible choices. Shenlong's mask split open, revealing an endless tunnel of flickering screens, every Dragon Ball episode ever made, looping infinitely. At the end of the tunnel, a single blank cell. Waiting. Hungry. The children's chanting rose to a deafening roar as my inked arm lifted on its own, poised to draw the final panel. Toriyama's corpse whispered one last truth. The dragon doesn't grant wishes. He collects them.